Okay, you guys, I am not going to make this a super long video because honestly, I feel, or super long live, because honestly, I feel that this is a conversation that we could have over an extended period of time and really delve into the discussion and explore like all the ways that our collective addiction to pain and misery is exploited by so many people. And I want to get into what I mean by that, but first I want to talk about who exploits it, right? So politicians exploit our pain. Um, Academia exploits our pain. Um, People who write books exploit our pain. YouTubers exploit our pain. The pro-Black community exploits our pain. Everybody, really, right? Commercials exploit our pain. Literally, it is a well-known fact, right, that Black people have an addiction to their own oppression, that we have an addiction to our own pain. And this manifests itself in many, many ways, right? So let's start with, for example, this idea of us being downtrodden in society and being oppressed by the system. That is a narrative that we play in. And what I want to say is, it's not that there aren't truth to these things, right? It's not that there's not truth to Black people being oppressed in the system. It's not that there's not truth to things like colorism. It's not that there's not truth to the stagnancy of our economic status or remediation of that status when it does make progress or has made progress throughout history. It's not that those things aren't true. What it is that there's a difference between having a conversation and recognizing a truth about what is going on in the community and having a conversation that basically goes, I see that you're hurting. I am outraged too. Now let's wallow in self-pity. Or let me come up with a solution that is fallacious in nature, right? So I could use so many examples of this, but let me just use a few, okay? I just want to use a few. So for example, if you feel, and this is my personal one, and then I'll use one that I'm tempted to use simply because it's fresh on my mind, the colorism thing, but I'm not going to start there because that's just an easy one to pick on, right? Or Black male and female relations. Actually, let's start with Black male and female relations because that's another easy one to pick on. So if you are angry with Black men or you are angry with Black women, then because there's so much damage in our relationships, right? And so we could get into the cause of that damage. I've heard the Black men say, Black women were the reason for slavery, right? Because it was Black female wombs that produced babies, and those babies were then slave. And if Black women just didn't have babies, then there could be no slavery, right? I know that some of us have heard this argument. It's a disgusting argument, and I guess arguably it's true, right? If all Black women, threw themselves in a lake versus, giving birth to babies, then, it would have been very hard to perpetuate breeding programs that encourage slavery. Or on the flip side, you'll have Black women say that, slavery was a cause and inability of Black men or lack of desire, inability of Black men to fight back against oppressors, right? To be willing to fight back against oppressors. So, and that they didn't fight hard enough, that they did not try hard enough. So what is the solution to this? So you have people that pander to that anger and that pain. We're all in this position because Black men refuse to fight. We're all in this position because Black women are acquiescent to the white status quo, right? So then what is the solution? The solution is obviously that we ought to turn on each other. That's clearly the solution, right? The solution is Black men go be with everybody who's not a Black woman, right? And also, build rhetoric, write books, write papers, create YouTube channels, obsessively speak on your social media account about the ills of Black women specifically, right? Or in the case of Black women, the solution is to be with any man that's not Black and do the same thing. Pander a narrative that is Black male hating, right? So this is pandering to a pain with a fallacious solution, right? It's funny how all the fallacious solutions that come forward when Black people's pain is pandered to, specifically, let's talk about within the Black community, because there's another way, and we can discuss this another day, but let's deal with what we can control. Within the Black community, it's always divisive. It's always divisive. When we pander to each other's pain in the Black community, the solution is always to be divisive. The solution is not to come to an agreement. There is a problem and that we should work together. The solution is to divide further, right? So then it becomes an obsession with everything that Black men have done wrong. It becomes an obsession with everything Black women have done wrong. Colorism is another one, right? So when we're pandering to these ideas of colorism, then the solution is that the lighter people all segregate and the darker people all segregate, and we just hate on each other. And it's no longer a Black man or a Black woman, it's a dark Black man or a dark Black woman, or a light Black man or a light Black woman, or a brown skinned man or a brown skinned woman, right? It's better that we subdivide further. The same thing when it goes to economic pain, right? Then it becomes the elite Black, right? Versus the poor Black. The Blacks that had a white life versus the Blacks that have had a Black life, right? There's a division there. And you can have people who are, more hood, right? They speak the vernacular that we associate with what should be Black, and then they can get into a huddle and they can talk down on academic Blacks or professional Blacks, or the professional and academic Blacks get together and they talk down on those who are hoodish, quote unquote, right? So in every situation, it's a pandering to a pain. It's, I see your pain. Black man, I see your pain. I see that you're frustrated. And I'm here to tell you I understand. Oh, these Black women are trash. Oh, the system is so down on you. Black woman, I see your pain. Oh, I'm here to tell you Black men aren't shit, right? Oh, I'm here to tell you, if only they would fight back. Oh, if Black women only knew how to be submissive, if they weren't dragging us into court all the time, if they weren't doing this and that to us. Oh, if Black men, weren't so lazy, if they would just stay in the home, if they would just get control of their penises, right? If all of these Black people just didn't hate us so much because our skin is so dark. This is the infighting part, right? Again, we can probably, I think, have a whole separate discussion on how outside parties use our addiction to our own pain to manipulate us further. But let's talk about the inside, how we do it internally. Because the fact that we do it internally is what allows people externally to exploit us. Why do all of our solutions as Black people degrade into division? And, recently you guys know that I had a situation where, an attempt was made, because we always come with narratives, right? We always come with narratives. And so it turned into a situation where, oh, they just don't like us because we like to date out, right? Oh, they just don't like us because we're dark. Oh, they just don't like us because we're men or because we're women. And in the attempt to box me in with the narrative, it wasn't possible because, I don't pander to any singular group, right? I don't pander to Black men. I don't pander to Black women. I don't have a pet pain of the Black community that I care to pander to. Because at the end of the day, what affects one part of our community, it bleeds through the whole community. So I don't need a pet. And people will argue, well, what is wrong, right? What is wrong with only talking about issues that face Black men, or only talking about issues that face Black children, or only talking about issues that face Black women? And I have to say, until this conversation today, I've always allowed myself to be backed into a corner where I'll go, you know what, you're right, you deserve to have those individual conversations. But you know what? I think I'm hopping off that square. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not okay with it anymore. Here's the problem. Let me give you an example. All right. I have a railroad track, and my railroad track is 100 miles long. And there's 1 mile of my railroad tracks that are completely dilapidated. That's one problem, right? Over at the train station at the beginning of the track, there's an issue where the people who are supposed to switch the rails, right? So I have a dilapidated part of the track, but they could move the rail and reroute it so that the trains could circumvent that part of the track. But I have a problem down there with the people not moving the rails when they ought to. So there are all these accidents happening, right? And then on the other, at the end of the track, that's where the rescue teams are, and they're never on their job. So when the dilapidated part of the track that's not getting fixed, and the people who are supposed to reroute the train don't do their job, and then the rescue teams on the other side of the track, every time we sound the alarm or somebody calls them, they never show up on time. And so we're all trying to figure out, how do we make this whole rail system work, right? Because we have a problem. The train can't get from point A to point B. So how do we make this rail system work? And the people over at the beginning of the track, they only want to talk about the problems going on at the beginning of the track. And the people at the end of the track, they only want to talk about what's going on with the rescue workers. And those of us that are focused on the broken part of the track, we only want to talk about, what's going on that 1 mile of the track that's not working. Right? But here's the problem. If we start doing construction on the part of the track that's broken, but we aren't having a simultaneous conversation with the people at the beginning of the track saying, hey, you see us down here working? We're going to need you to do some rerouting. You have to get more consistent with your rerouting. We don't want to talk to them, though, because this is our space. And in our space, we only talk about the broken part of the track. We're not worried about what you have going on. We deserve to have a space where all we talk about is what we want to talk about. And it doesn't matter that there's going to need to be some collaboration for us to solve this problem, because we're all traveling down the same railway together, right? There's only one railway and we've all got to be on it. I'm not talking to you. I'm not willing to deal with you, right? I'm only willing to deal with the part of the problem I think is important, or the part of the problem that is most centered on me. Well, that's going to become an issue. We're not going to be able to solve the whole problem with our rail system if the people at the end of the track, and the people at the beginning of the track, and the people by the broken part of the track, and the emergency teams, and the people rerouting the tracks, if nobody wants to, if everybody feels like they're entitled to only fixating on their own personal issue with what's wrong with the railway. And the Black community is much like that railway, right? The Black men are at the beginning of the track. The Black women are standing around at the broken part of the track in that 1 mile stretch in the middle. Maybe the darker Black people are over at the end of the track, controlling the the emergency teams, and none of us want to talk to each other. But what we have is we have these people that hop on soapboxes. And so we have somebody that hops on the soapbox in the middle of the track. Ah, those of you here in the middle of the track, don't you see that nobody else in this rail system cares about you? You should just disassociate yourself. Isn't that what they tell us? Oh, don't you see that Black women, they are not submissive. They are horrible mothers. They are helping and aiding and abetting the white man. They are being elevated over you in society. They're taking you into court. Oh, don't you see that Black men? You know, and then you have somebody else, because we all need our individual spaces, right? We're all sharing the same train. We're all sharing the same rail system, right? But we all need our individual spaces. We're not going to talk to each other. We're going to talk about each other, but not to each other. So then you have the people over at the beginning of the track. Oh, Black men. Or, oh, Black women. You know, Black men are just, they just refuse to fight the white man. They have, you know, they're lazy. They're not family men. They don't want to marry you. Then over in the dark-skinned section, oh, dark-skinned people. Don't you see all these other Black people that are lighter than you? They don't understand your pain. This is the dark-skinned section over here. This is the Black men section over here. This is the Black women section over here. This is the section for the real Black people. This is the section for the uppity, persnickety Black people, right? These are all of our individual sections. This is the section for those of us with degrees. These are for the section for those of us with hood degrees. We're all not talking to each other. We're all in our separate corners, and I'm only concerned about the thing that I feel is most important. We're all capable of talking about each other and about how everybody else is contributing to our problem. I'm dark-skinned. I'm light-skinned. I'm brown-skinned. Whatever we're calling ourselves, I want to talk about how all the other skin tones of Black people are contributing to my downfall. I'm a Black man. I want to talk about how Black women are contributing to my downfall. I'm a Black woman. I want to talk about how Black men are contributing to my downfall. I'm an elite Black person. I want to talk about how all these hood men, hood Negroes are contributing to making me look bad when I worked so hard to get here. I'm in the hood. I want to talk about all these sellouts who've left the hood and are making money and how they're contributing to my downfall, how they're not coming back to help me. And so whatever our individual pain, whichever one of our pains is the greatest, right? So if your greatest pain is you're a Black man who's had a bad experience with a woman, right? Maybe a few women, maybe you've been to child support court, right? Then there's a pimp out there. There's a snake oil salesman out there who will spend every single day doing nothing but talking about your problem. I totally understand. Child support, Black women, the system, they're hiring them over us, right? If you're a Black woman, single mother, not unprotected, there's a pimp for you too. Oh, Black woman, these Black men won't marry you, cowards, right? If you're light-skinned, these dark-skinned people hating on you, If you're dark-skinned, all these other safe-looking Black people being elevated over you, and you're being pushed to the bottom of the totem pole when you're the real representation, right? And then if anybody says, hey, don't you think we ought to sit down and have a conversation together? Because remember, we're all on the same rail system. We're all traveling down the same tracks. Maybe we should come together and have a conversation. No, we all deserve our space. This is Black male space. This is a Black female space. This space is for light-skinned people. This space is for dark-skinned people. This space is for educated people. Whatever the space is, I don't want to solve any problems. I don't. See, all my solutions are about being separated from you, talking about you, blaming you, being angry at you. I want to go somewhere where I can wallow in my pain forever. I want to hear 1 year's worth of how child support sucks. I want to hear 2 years worth of how Black men aren't crap. I want to hear 3 years worth of how elite Blacks never come back to the hood to help anybody. I mean, I could wallow in these painful conversations for I will never get sick of hearing about child support ever. You could talk about child support for the next 3,000 days. I'm there every single time with my super chat. I'm going to buy your book every single time. I'll never get over it. Black women over us in the workforce. Oh, I'm there. Let's talk about it because I know that these Black women are getting hired over me. I could talk about this all day, every day. I will never stop talking about this. If you want to talk about this for the next 3 years, I'm there every time you do it. Every single Black person I see on TV is not as dark as me. I want to discuss that every single day from here until the day I die. Don't you ever stop discussing this. And as long as you will keep telling me how wrong that is and keep giving me examples of how terrible it is and how angry I ought to be and how outraged and how horrible this is, I've got some money for you. Whatever my pain is, I just need somebody to validate my pain. But more importantly, I need them to give me solutions that are self-destructive and will do nothing to build our community together. What you've got to tell me is not that I have any self-accountability in this. What you've got to tell me is not that I might need to reach toward other people in my community to solve these problems. Oh, no. No, 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 no. We don't reach toward each other. That's not what we do. No, that's not the point of these conversations. The point of these conversations is that somebody is the bad guy. And all we do is talk about how we're hurting, and then we find the bad guy, and that's the guy we got to separate from. If the Black woman is the bad guy, separate from her. If the Black man is the bad guy, separate from him. If the person lighter or darker than you is the bad guy, separate from them. So going back to my railroad analogy, right? We're all on this railroad together. And we all have a joint problem, but absolutely none of us wants to discuss the problem. We don't. Not with each other. So even though I recognize for me to do construction in the middle of the track, the people who switch the rails have to be in cooperation with me. Otherwise, the trains are just going to keep driving over the part I'm working on. I won't talk to them ever. Because I'm not here to solve problems. I'm here to wallow in my own self-pity. And honestly, it's a business. It's a business inside and out of the Black community. This pandering to our hurt is something that makes money. It allows people to write books. It allows people to give lectures and symposiums. It allows people to have YouTube channels. It lets people eat. This is how people pay their bills. Right? This is what they do. They find a pain that enough people share, and then day after day, hour after hour, week after week, month after month, year after year, they just vomit up that pain. and you eat it. And they vomit it up and you eat it. And nothing ever changes. I know people say things change. You know what I mean? Oh, I just went and got myself a white man or a white woman. Oh, I just, I'm not dealing with these black men anymore. I'm not going to feel bad. But nothing ever changes. You know why I know nothing ever changes? Because you keep going back to the person who's vomiting up your pain. See, once you're healed from a pain, this is why we know that these people can't do us any good. Because once you're healed from your pain, then you won't have a use for them anymore, right? Once you're not tight about child support, once you're not tight about black women being over you, once you're not tight about cowardly black men who won't marry you, once you're not tight about skin color, once you're not tight about these things anymore, well, then you have no reason to suck up their vomit. See, the game is dependent on you never actually getting okay. Because if anything improves, how do they make money anymore? How do you make money if the people you're speaking to stop hurting? Right? If they stop having the pain, then nobody wants to listen to you talk about it anymore. Nobody wants to read your books about it anymore. Nobody wants to come to your lectures about it anymore. We have made our pain a commodity. Now, this is what goes on within the Black community. But like I said, I want to expand this conversation to discuss how our pain has been made a commodity outside of the Black community. How it's used to sell us things at stores. How it's used to pander to us for political purposes. How it's used to shape our social policies. Because we are addicted to being downtrodden. And honestly, we don't want solutions. That's not what we want. And you know how I know we don't want solutions? Because we spend so much time talking about our pain and fixating on our pain. But we spend very little time executing solutions. We can tell you all the problems, all the things we're suffering from, and we know all the people who are causing the suffering. But it is amazing. It is amazing how the things that are masquerading as solutions are really just money-making opportunities for these people who are discussing your pain. Isn't it funny how all of their solutions are just money-making and fame-spreading opportunities for themselves? Because remember, without your pain, there's no one for them to listen to. So action is never on the plate. It never is. And the solutions they provide, they don't work. Because if you are a doctor and people come to you for healing, what should happen to your patients? Should your clinic be overflowing with patients every day if you're really fixing people? Of course not. They get better, they leave. The mark of your success is the fact that you're not overflowing with patients every day. But the same people keep coming back to your clinic because you never actually give them anything to heal them. Because the business is not fixing. The business is your pain. We have to stop allowing ourselves to be manipulated in these ways. The only discussion that should ever happen about our pain should be discussions where we are actively talking about how to overcome it collectively. But divisive discussions where you go week after week and year after year to hear your pain vomited up in your face for your consumption, that is a hustle. And it's time we break out of these things. I want to continue this discussion because the manipulation of our pain for the gain of others is something that is the easiest hustle for anybody from politician to street preacher to get on. Because if there is one thing Black people fall for, hook, line, and sinker, if there is one thing our people will always fall for, it's somebody willing to pander to their pain. We're so busy trying to be heard, we're so busy trying to be validated that we don't see the game for what it is. And this is why we never progress. Because our conversations are not about progression. Our conversations are about having our pain validated, endlessly and continuously validated to no end. That is why some of the most successful books, successful public speakers, successful YouTube channels, that is why they are successful. Because all they ever address is your pain. Let me tell you about your pain. Let me tell you who's responsible for it. Let me tell you how much we hate and despise them. Let me tell you why you need to get away from them. Notice it's not about reconciling us. It's never about reconciling us. It's always about dividing us. Because if you reconcile, then your pain might be fixed. And my hustle, right? The hustle of the snake oil salesman is to keep you fixated on your problem. Ah, man, these bitches in child support. These gold diggers. Ah, these men, lazy, chasing after vagina, never want a wife. Ah, these dark-skinned people always complaining. Ah, these light-skinned people holding us back. Whoever it is, the wealthy, the women, the men, the dark, the light, the poor, whoever that other Black person is, that is the reason for your problem. I don't ever want you to talk to them. I don't ever want you to try to figure it out with them. I just want to talk to you about what they've done wrong and how I understand your pain. I understand you're angry. Let me tell you all the ways that I understand. Let me tell you today. Let me tell you tomorrow. Let me tell you indefinitely. Just give me the money and I will tell you all about your pain for as long as you care to listen. I'm going to tell you all about how you need to separate yourself from these trash Black people that don't understand you. Nobody cares about you. Black women don't care about you. Black women aren't worried about you. Black women are winning out here with these whites. These whites give them the jobs. These whites elevate them above you. Black men don't care about you. Black men only care about having sex with white women. Black men don't want to protect you. Black men aren't trying to marry you. They don't respect you. Dark-skinned women, nobody cares about you. Even if everything around us changed, we would still be too dark for anybody to love us. Light-skinned women, they just hate you. They just hate you. They're ugly, and they blame their ugliness on your lightness. You can't flex with them. Let me tell you about your pain today. Let me tell you what I understand about you. I understand these trifling bitches pulling you into child support court all the time. I understand how they're always trying to get in your pockets. They don't want to see you win. I understand how they know that a Black man ought to be in their position, but they don't care. I know that they know they're being used by white society to keep you down, but they don't care. Let me tell you about what this Black woman did. Look at this news piece I saw. Black women. Let me tell you about this Black man. Let me tell you about how he dogged out this woman, how he dogged out his kid. Let me tell you about how they don't care about you. Let me tell you about how they would rather put their penises in everybody but you. Let me tell you about how they don't value why they never marry you. Let me tell you about how I understand your pain. Dark-skinned women, let me tell you about how they think your skin is ugly. Let me tell you about how you need to separate from them. Let me tell you about how even the darkest of them is not as dark as you and can't understand. No, they don't value you. Let me tell you about your pain. Poor Black people, let me tell you about how these people get a little money and act brand new. How they never come back and try to fix up the hood. Let me tell you about how they think their education makes them better than you. They don't understand you, but I do. I understand your pain. And I'm going to talk about it forever. I'm going to talk about it forever. I want you to wallow in it day after day. And although I say that I'm helping you, you know that I'm not helping you because you keep having to come back. See, if I was helping you, you would stop hurting. And then you wouldn't need to come and hear me talk about your pain anymore because the pain would be gone. It would be healed. But see, it's an open wound. And I'm here to salt it. I'm here to salt it as I pretend that I'm helping you. Heck, I've got you so twisted, you even think that I'm helping you. And yet here you are with me again, while I pander to your pain. See, that is the hustle inside of the community. But this addiction to the pandering to our pain is something that is exploited outside of our community as well. And I really want to discuss this. I want to have more than one discussion about this. I'm going to end this live for today, but I want to have more than one discussion about this. Because the greatest hustle I see aimed at the Black community is the pain hustle. And see, if you call it a hustle, they'll try to say that you're denying their pain. That's what the snake oil salesman, the pimps will say. Oh, they're just denying your pain. Everybody's always trying to tell you you're not entitled to your pain. If I say that we need to talk to each other, if I deny the fact that you need to go crawl into a corner with a bunch of people who share your pain versus coming out into the open air and discussing it with all of us, then they'll say, oh, they want to force you to not even have a space. You see how they don't want anything for you? Black women don't ever want Black men to have a space. Black men don't ever want Black women to have a space. Lighter people never want darker people to have a space. They're always trying to push us out of the Black community, say the light-skinned people, right? Whatever your problem is, these poor people always trying to get in the spaces for wealthy people. We just want to have a space for academics where only people with doctorates talk to each other. You know we don't respect anything that comes out of the mouth of somebody that doesn't have a degree. Why would you even be a part of this conversation? Where did you get your formal education to be able to break down this problem, right? See, that's the key. The key is we separate everybody, we pander to their pain, and if anybody calls us out on it, we say you're denying our pain and you don't want us to have our own space. Because that ensures that no one will ever begin to have a dialogue with anybody else so that we can move past the vomiting and regurgitation of pain and move on to correcting this. And we have to stop falling for the okie doke. Our people are stuck in a cycle. Our pain is being pimped, and it has been being pimped generationally for a long time, and we need to get away from this. All of this division and separating in safe spaces for individual pains, it has not worked. So why do we keep trying to do that? I want to talk a little bit about where these concepts of separation could have come from, because if you notice, this is something that is popular outside of Black society as well. Specialty groups, right? That only focus on one group of people. It's something that we're mimicking in the Black community, despite the fact that we're all traveling this road together and we are all oppressed and hurt collectively, not as specialty groups, despite what your pimps may tell you. Anyway, give me your thoughts on this, you guys. Be ready for our next discussion on it, because I really want to look at this. And I'll talk to you guys later. Let's see what this election night holds. I don't know what's going to happen, you guys, but I know this. They're rioting in Europe, and with the shutdowns, not only are they rioting all over Europe, people are fleeing cities like France to the point where you can barely get out the city. And trust me, this lockdown is coming to a city near you soon enough. So let's keep our eyes out. The election's going to determine a lot about how restricted our freedoms are going to become. I know for me, I'm renewing my passport in the next 2 weeks, and I'm getting my gun. I'm getting my guns, and I'm also making sure that I load up on any ammunition I need, because there's an ammo shortage. And I would make sure, if I were in your position, that you get your weapons together, that you get your food together, that you get your ammunition together, that if you have a passport, you get that taken care of while you can still get one. Remember, they put a hold on passports for a while. So grab these things while you can, right? Grab these things while you are able, because soon you're not going to be able. It's going to get more constrictive. And depending on the results of this election, it might get more constrictive far quicker than any of us anticipate. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. If you did not get a chance to hear this, because I know I didn't want to put the link out too early, be sure to listen to the playback, share your thoughts, and I hope that we can revisit this conversation in a little more depth. I just wanted to introduce the concept to get you guys thinking, and then we can flesh it out more clearly later. But this is just what's been on my mind like the past 3 days, you guys. And I didn't want to make this a public video because people always think everything is about somebody, and it's just not. It's something that I've been seeing a lot. I've seen it with the Egyptologists, the colorists, the Black man haters, the Black women haters, the academics. I've seen this a lot since I've been in this space, and it's disgusting. And I guess I just reached a point where I was just like, we've got to talk about this, because I can't be the only one that notices this. Like, it's bizarre. It's bizarre the way people are going about this. And it's weird that nobody notices that something is wrong with this behavior. I can't be alone in thinking this, but you can let me know. I'll talk to you guys later.